They sent me a bill for $12,000 for a house they don't own, on land they don't control, because my greenhouse was too nice. Yeah, that happened, and I'm not proud of how long it took me to stop laughing and start fighting, but honestly you'd laugh too if your mailbox tried to extort you. Let me back up a sec. 2 years after I sold my startup, instead of buying a yacht or a condo I'd never sit in, I drove halfway across Colorado, signed on a quiet parcel just outside town, and traded server alerts for sunrise and dirt under my fingernails. Peace was the plan, simple as that. The place was half-forgotten charm, a weathered house on nearly 2 acres, and right when I could finally taste what normal might be, I started building a greenhouse, glass and timber, a refuge for orchids and desert succulents, because after years of endless meetings, naming a cactus Gary felt revolutionary. Everything checked out: deed, parcel number, title, insurance. My lot was legally outside the Meadowvale Homeowners Association. I triple-checked it like a man removing a bullet from his past life. Mornings were herbal tea in a robe with holes, bare feet on grass, sketching greenhouse ideas on napkins, feeling like I'd finally traded code for something honest. Then, one Tuesday, a woman in pastel slacks and a blazer that screamed, "I run things where nothing happens," showed up at my door with a clipboard and a practiced smile. "Hi, I'm Karen Barton, Meadowvale HOA president, just welcoming you to the neighborhood," she said, handing me a glossy pamphlet like a covert summons. I smiled, explained the deed said otherwise, and watched her smile twitch, an insect caught in a porch light. "Oh, I understand," she said sweetly, "but everyone contributes around here. It's how we keep things harmonious." She left in a spotless SUV and I shrugged. Weird, but whatever, right? Wrong. 3 weeks later, a neatly typed envelope sat in the mailbox. Resident, important community update. I opened it, coffee halfway to my mouth, and nearly choked on a paragraph. Reclassified as Category A estate due to architectural enhancements. Please remit $12,847.77. Signed, Karen Barton, President. I called the number, not waiting for pleasantries. "Karen, this is a mistake. My property isn't part of Meadowvale." She paused, adjusted whatever invisible crown she wore, and said, "Mr. Caulfield, our board updated boundaries. You're adjacent. Your value impacts the community. Inclusion benefits everyone." Inclusion, in her vocabulary, meant pay up. Next day, a printed map taped to my gate, my lot highlighted in pink Sharpie. New boundary, HOA approved, scribbled like a kid's homework. 2 days later, second notice, late fees threatened. Then the city letter arrived, certified, official looking. My greenhouse was allegedly violating aesthetic compatibility, reflecting sunlight, generating heat waves, disrupting harmony, as if my orchids were launching a stealth climate strike. Inspection scheduled. Hearings to defend my literal glass house. It felt like a bad joke written by someone with power and no imagination. Karen didn't stop at paperwork. She weaponized neighborhood chat. Posts in the HOA group painted me as some rogue homeowner, refusing to cooperate. She posted photos of my greenhouse with a snide caption. The replies stacked up, and that's when the neighbors started to tilt. A compliance volunteer trespassed, snapped photos from 6 feet away, and posted them with, "When you don't follow rules, you shine too bright." Suddenly, a few extra comments turned into a public narrative. I'm the problem. I'm not a person who's great at taking orders, and I'm horrible at being boxed, so I stopped being polite. I called Diane Brooks, a no-nonsense real estate attorney recommended by a guy in my garden club, who once hammered a zoning board over a koi pond. Diane had that look, like she ate overreaching bylaws for breakfast. She came over with a briefcase and a mission, deed, plat, title, not subject to HOA governance, and a letter she liked to wave called Cease and Desist. She also found something delicious, an old HOA map filed with the city in 2010 that explicitly excluded my parcel, a grandfathered clause in my favor, and better yet, a private email from an HOA board member leaked in that said, "We can't legally force him, but if we flood the zoning board with complaints about the greenhouse, he might fold." Twist, a tiny act of conscience from inside the HOA, someone tired of Karen's little empire, leaked the emails. That leak changed everything. If it was a siege before, now it was a conspiracy on paper. Diane drafted a surgical packet, deeds, plat maps, recorded exemptions, photos of the landscapers who'd trespassed, security footage, evidence of fake invoices and forged boundary lines, and a federal-sounding list of claims: trespass, fraud, slander, intentional infliction of emotional distress. We named names, we gathered witnesses, and we prepared to make the HOA defend the mess they'd made. Court day felt cinematic, polished floors, the courthouse smell, Diane looking like justice in a blazer, the HOA board sitting like overdressed ducks, and Karen, hair flawless, smile twitching at the center. Diane presented the documents with the calm of a surgeon, slide by slide, deed, survey, evidence of unauthorized entry, the Sharpa map that looked like someone's doodle, and screenshots of Karen's posts. The judge's eyebrow rose with every exhibit. At one point he asked, "You tried to redraw legal boundaries with a Sharpa?" Diane nodded. "Yes, Your Honor," and then issued an invoice based on that fantasy. Karen took the stand and flailed through the party line. Community standards, protecting property values. We only wanted harmony. Until Diane handed over the internal emails and her Facebook posts accusing me of hoarding invasive flora, and you could see the air leave the room. The judge's ruling sliced through the tension. HOA invoice null and void, greenhouse fully legal and protected, damages awarded, $415,000 including punitive damages for emotional distress, restitution for legal fees and repairs, and the HOA placed under state oversight for a year. Karen was immediately removed by emergency vote. The room made a noise like a crowd exhaling all at once. Walking out of that courthouse, the sun hit like a spotlight. Neighbors came up, some with baked goods. A weathered man tipped his hat and muttered, "Took long enough." And for the first time in months, I could breathe. Not the shallow kind of victory that tastes like gloating, but the clean kind that feels like your spine remembering how to stand straight. The best small revenge? A 6-foot bronze plaque now sits in front of the greenhouse, built without HOA permission, thriving ever since, and for Karen in smaller letters, "Do not touch, especially the cactuses." I expanded the collection to 40 species, each cheekily named Vulvus bureaucratica carinus expulsio. You get the picture. We threw a backyard party, cactus and karma festival, taco truck, a band, a piñata shaped like a clipboard labeled violations, neighbors laughing under string lights, Linda from the old board snorting sangria out of laughter. And when I toasted, glass of homemade lemonade in hand by the greenhouse, I said, "To gardens without boundaries and neighbors who mind their own damn business." And everyone cheered like they'd been waiting to release that breath for years. But here's the thought I want you to sit with, because this story is tidy now, and I like tidy, but tidy deletes a messy truth. When does protecting a neighborhood become an abuse of power, and when does community standards become a weapon? If you were on my land, with the deed in your hand and a group of people trying to redraw your reality with a marker, would you fold to keep the peace? Or would you fight until the last invoice is null and void? That question, that slippery border between justice and revenge, between community and control, is why I want to hear from you. Drop your stories in the comments. Have you been bullied by bureaucracy, shoveled into a box by a clique with a clipboard, or stood up and ruffled the calm by saying no? Tell me what justice looks like where you live. And if you've got an HOA horror or victory, share it. Because sometimes the next person who reads your comment will find the courage to stop letting someone else rewrite their lines. You know what I mean?